What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. Black Appeal, the tech guy here. Today I'm going to talk to you about the 5 reasons why I bought the Sony ZV-E10 and why you, as a content creator new to YouTube, or you're looking to add another camera to your collection for, like, say, B-roll cameras, should consider buying the Sony ZV-E10. So I bought this camera off of eBay used in November, and living in Alaska, it's a little bit hard for me to do any type of video reviews with this camera, especially outside when it's still winter between November and like March. So I've only made like 2 videos when the weather was kind of warm-ish. So I will be doing a little bit more videos with this and the lens that I bought with it. But aside from that, first thing we're going to talk about is price. Now, price can vary depending on which website you're going through and then the condition of the said used camera. So I bought this off of eBay, and I'll have a link below for the least expensive versions of this that are still in decent condition for the Sony ZV-10. So again, I bought this off of eBay, and I think I got it for around $500 some odd dollars, and I believe shipping was like 25 bucks, so it's like $525. So the guy that was selling this was selling it used but in good condition. Now, normally I don't really buy a lot of electronics off of eBay, used or otherwise, because sometimes you really can't tell. These are individuals that are selling it, as opposed to, say, buying it from like B&H, Adorama, Amazon, or any of the other reputable camera websites where you can buy used gear. So, and I'm not saying you shouldn't buy from eBay, but there's ways of verifying, trust and verify. There's programs that you can download, and you can generally just talk to the vendor or the person that's selling it and say, hey, can you send me a picture? And you can kind of verify in terms of how the picture is taken. It's basically called a shutter count, and there's programs that you can use, download, that will tell you exactly what the shutter count range is for that specific camera. And as I said before, when I bought this, it was considered used but good. And so I didn't really know much about these programs until actually after I bought this. So when I got the camera, it was practically brand new. I mean, the guy labeled it as used but good, but it really should have been just brand new, because literally there's literally no flaws on the camera itself. There's no scratches, there's no worn anything. And believe me, I looked at all the buttons, tested all the features, and there's literally nothing wrong with the camera. So I'm just assuming the guy just wanted to get rid of it. So like I said before, there was a program that I downloaded, and it kind of gave me a range, shutter range between what this camera, in terms of each price point and how many times the camera was used, to determine how much of a lifespan of the camera it had. And when I first used it, at least up until now, it was something like just under 1,000 shutter count. So the camera is still practically brand new. Even with the camera still now, me taking a few pictures on it, my shutter count's only like 2,000. It's still considered a brand new camera, even though I've had it for 6 months and really haven't done much with it, because I don't really do a lot of pictures with it. It's mostly just for video. Every once in a while I'll take a photo with it, but mostly just as a camera, as a backup for my FX30. So price-wise, it can get pretty cheap. I've seen some as cheap as 524 bucks on eBay, and usually around maybe 600-ish or so with the kit lens. And even on B&H, I've seen it for around the same price, about $571. I'm looking at B&H right now. $571 for item condition, which they have different numbers for their level of conditions. It's a 9, and then if you want to get it with a kit lens, it's like $701, as opposed to buying it brand new for like $800. And I'll have a link down below for the various versions of these from various websites. So if you want to take a look at them, definitely worth it. But otherwise, there's nothing wrong with buying these cameras used, as long as it's in good condition. And so, like I said before, I'm not knocking eBay. It's just sometimes you can't really tell from a vendor if they're telling you the actual truth about the camera being brand new. You buy it, and then it's, all messed up, and there's something they didn't tell you, and it's kind of buyer beware. But Amazon or eBay is getting better at return policies for these. Otherwise, price-wise, it is definitely worth looking at, as opposed to buying it brand new if you can avoid it. Because obviously when it comes to buying cameras, you want a budget, but you don't want to be too cheap and then just buy something and then it's just not worth the money because it's just broken, and I just waste all this money on a broken piece of tech. So price-wise, there are various websites that I will list below that will give you a good kind of price balance between them, depending on the depending on the condition of the camera. So, number two, ease of use. This is no more different than the Sony ZV-1, ZV-1 Mark II, the ZV-1F, and even to some extent the A6400. The buttons are easy to use. The grip is a little bit small, but you can fix that by buying a cage for the FX or for the ZV-1, and it will add, usually if it's a rubber grip, it'll add a little bit more. You can also get one with a wooden grip. So if you have bigger hands, that grip will allow you to securely hold this without dropping it. So if you ever want to put like a bigger lens on it, you don't have to worry about dropping out of your hands or your hands getting fatigued. It does have a swivel out screen. Now, unlike the FX30 and I believe the A6700, which I think is full touch, this is not a full touch screen, but it does have tap to focus, which is actually also a good thing. So if you're shooting photos and you need to focus on one specific thing, you can literally just tap on the object and it will tap to focus on that. Now, I'm assuming if they ever make a second version of this, it may have a full touch screen, although I doubt it, but you know, who knows. It would be kind of interesting to see them incorporate that into this as they're putting in new AI chips in all of their other higher end cameras. So it would be interesting. But yes, this does not have a full touch. It is tap to focus. But beyond that, it's still perfectly fine. It will give you everything that you need to get done. It shows you in the video, shows you all the settings that you need and make sure that they're all correct before hitting that record button. Otherwise, all your buttons right there, that's your record button. This is your mode selector. So basically from that, it allows you to select between photo, S&Q, and video. And all you have to do is literally just tap on the button. And then on the screen, it will show you the various modes in which you want to be put in. So it will show you, if you want to switch to photos, which typically is by default, it will be on photos. You tap on it, and it will bring you to video, and then tap on it again, and it will bring you to S&Q, and then that's it. Once you turn off the camera, it's whatever mode you had it in previously is where it sits at when you turn it off, and then when you turn it back on again, you simply just press the mode button and go to the next previous settings. Otherwise, you have your customizable button right here, which is C1. That is basically what I would call your product showcase. So basically what it allows you to do is say, I wanted to do a product case on this Condor Blue Mondo ties. It will focus specifically on this and blur out everything else in the background. That's what it's called, the product showcase. You can also use it for focus and defocus manually, so you don't even have to use it for products for the product showcase. If your videos, if you're recording something and you want to focus on that as opposed to the background, you simply just tap on it and it will tell you in the screen, this image is now defocused. Tap on it again, this image is now in focus. So it's actually a cool little kind of a two thing. It gives you like a 2-for-1 kind of thing, which is actually kind of cool. And I didn't really know much about this until I was using it on my ZV-1. So it's a nice little bonus to have. Otherwise, you have your little button right here. This is your zoom function for if you buy a lens that has zoom. You can simply zoom in with this, or zoom out. Now you can do an electronic digital zoom with this. So if you don't have a camera that has zoom, say like the Sigma 60mm or the Sony 11mm or say the 50mm G lens, you can do an electronic zoom in, and you have this kind of change that in the settings, but you can do it if you wanted to. Otherwise, if you have a lens with zoom, you can simply just back and forth with that as well. Now, on the top here, this is your cold/hot shoe. And again, if you're familiar with cameras, you can simply just attach any wireless shotgun mic to this, or you can actually use, I believe, Sony's EC10, I believe is what it is. This is basically a shotgun mic that attaches to the camera and is powered by the camera. So as long as your camera has power, the microphone is also working. There's no need to plug it into anything. It just works. There's no need to plug it into the headphone jack so that it will get power that way. It just simply just, if the camera has power, then the microphone has power, which is actually kind of cool. Now, I don't know how much it costs. It's just something I've seen a lot of YouTubers mention as an alternative to, like, say, the Hollylands or the Rhodes or the DJI. So it is one thing, it's one option to look at if you want to buy something like that. Otherwise, I have a link down below for that if you want to take a look at that, as well as some other really decent wireless microphones. Other than that, on the bottom you have a quarter screw, which my Ulanzi quick release plate is on. You can simply just attach a quick release plate to this, or you can simply just use this to screw onto a tripod. Then on the bottom here, that is your battery. This little blue switch here, you press that. That allows you to slide in and out of the battery as such. Push it in, and then on the top there, and the camera might not pick it up, but on the top here, that little clicking sound, that is where you would insert and remove the SD card. Otherwise, ease of use is pretty simple. Number 3, compactness. Look how small this camera is compared to the ZV-1, ZV-1 Mark II, the ZV-1F, A6400, 67, 66, 65. It is smaller than those cameras. It's about the size of the Sony ZV-1 and the ZV-1 Mark II in terms of just the body alone, not with lens. So if you want to pop this and go for like a weekend hike or trip, this and a small lens, and you're good to go. And a decent microphone, and you're good to go. It's small, it's compact. You can simply just pop it into your backpack, pop it in your pocket, pull out a lens, and then there you go. Small, compact, which is one of the reasons why I bought this and didn't go back to the ZV-1 Mark II or the ZV-1F, because I have a lot of lenses that I want to adapt to this, and just having a fixed lens on a camera, I'm not into that. This doesn't really seem like that would really help me in any of my videos in terms of ease of use for me. I prefer to, if I want to swap out lenses, I can swap out lenses. And because this camera is an APS-C censored camera, any of the lenses that I bought on my previous camera, which was the A6400, will still work on this because they're all interchangeable and they all work with the same censored camera. So there is the compactness of this camera is another thing that drew me to it. Now, when it comes to lenses, again, there are a whole host of lenses for this camera. Now, this camera does have IBIS or image stabilization in it. When you select it, it's going to be called a steady shot, which basically is just a fancy way of saying it's IBIS. Now, depending on the lens that you buy, some lenses will have this. They'll either be called OSS or I believe it's either Sigma or it's Tamron. They have a different version of it. I think they call it like VR. But as long as it has some sort of stabilizer in the lens paired with the camera, in terms of video, there shouldn't be any shaking in it whatsoever. So for instance, I have two lenses here. This is my Sony 11mm f1.8, and this is my newest lens that I just got. This is the Sigma 18 to 50mm lens. Now, neither one of these have OSS, but the difference between this lens versus the 18mm is that this is an ultra wide lens. So when I have it on my ZV-E10, when I have active steady shot on, because the lens is ultra wide and it's crops in a little, because all APS-C censored cameras do crop in when you have stabilization on, because this lens is such a wide lens, even with stabilization on, it doesn't really affect much of the video. Now, you can change that effect if you were to get, let's say, a handheld tripod, or you were to buy a gimbal. Then that alleviates you not having to worry about turning on active steady shot, as on a gimbal it's already stabilized. Now with your handheld tripod, you could turn on, it's at arm's length, so you could again turn on. And in terms of close-up, depending on the lens that you buy, you really won't have to worry about too much shutter and shaking. And really the good lenses that I would recommend would be either the Sigma 16mm f1.4, the 11mm f1.8 from Sony, or the 18 to 55mm from Sigma. And I believe they also have one from Tamron. I think it's the 16 to 35, I think. I forget which one it was from Tamron. They have another one that Tamron makes that's also perfectly fine for this. And in terms of weight, and we're going to put on the Sigma lens and not the Sony lens, because the Sony lens is a little bit smaller and lighter. But this is just the 18 to 55. And I will be doing a video on this lens in a later video, just haven't had time to yet. But even with this lens, it does add a little bit of weight, but it's not really heavy. It's easily manageable. Now again, if you have big hands, you can simply just buy a ZV-E10 case for this. I believe Small Rig makes one, and usually they'll have handles on it. It'll add a little bit more grip to this grip. It just simply attaches onto this, so it gives you a little bit more grip, that way your hands aren't getting any type of fatigue. So if you're holding this for long periods of times, then you don't have to worry about dropping it. But you can also, as you can see right here, you do have camera straps. So you can add some camera straps to this and kind of just wear it across the shoulder. And again, with a lens like this, it's really not going to be too heavy. Even if we were to use the Sigma 16mm lens, which is a really big lens on this camera, even with a camera strap, it's not that heavy. So that's something to look at also when it comes to lenses. It's just perfectly fine. Again, the body is small, lightweight, so you really shouldn't have too much trouble in lugging it around. Now, when it comes to vlogging on this, again, this is number 5. Vlogging on this camera is relatively easy. Again, you simply just open up your screen, turn on the power, and then you hit record. Now, a lot of people will tell you to shoot in manual. If you've never used a camera before in your life, aside from just your iPhone or Android device, there's nothing wrong with learning how to use automatic until you become familiarized with ISO, white balance, and shutter speed, because no one's going to really know it off the bat. And if you spend too much time trying to research on how to do that with your camera with the right settings, when it comes to content, especially if you're a first-time YouTuber, you're going to get lost in the sauce when it comes to that, and then you'll be spending so much time on that that your content, isn't going to really be put out, and then you're going to be just kind of stuck. Like, well, I need to learn how to do this, I need to learn how to do that. There's nothing wrong with shooting your camera in automatic until you learn how to use your camera in manual. That way you can learn the ins and outs of manuals, and you can know exactly what your camera can and can't do. When I first started using cameras, which was like the Panasonic, I didn't really know much about settings on it. I used everything in automatic, and then once I became familiarized with what ISO, white balance, all that became, then I started using my cameras in manual, and have been doing that kind of ever since. So there's nothing wrong, and there's no shame in learning how to just straight out just open up the camera, turn it on, put an SD card in, battery charged up, turn it on, hit record, and you're good to go. Again, you'll learn this as you go along. Now, obviously, if you're a seasoned profession or someone who's been using cameras for quite a while, then you're going to shoot in manual anyway. But this part is mostly for those who are looking to buy a camera and have never used one before. Automatic is perfectly fine for this. Now, and I did do a few videos with this, with the 11mm, which I think is the best pair for this camera because it's small and lightweight. Paired with this is an ultra wide lens, so even if you were to turn on active steady shot, which again is a fancy way of saying IBIS, this lens on this, you won't really notice much of a crop in on this, whereas on the 18mm, a slight crop but not too much, and with the Sigma 16mm, again, not so much. It is a much bigger lens than this, but again, you can simply just get a handheld tripod or use a gimbal and you are good to go. So that's all that I've got for you guys today. I want to thank everybody for watching. Again, if you're new to my channel, please think about hitting that subscribe button, hitting that bell notification. That way you don't miss content when I drop it. Stay tuned for my review with this. It'll just be kind of a small review right now. I haven't had a chance to really do much with it. I just got it a couple days ago. So just want to test out the video quality with this on that camera. So stay tuned for that video when I drop it. And if this video was helpful, please give me a thumbs up. And I'll drop a link down below for my next video, which is this paired with the ZV-E10, if you want to see what that is. And that's coming up now.